In today's podcast of the Python Presents show, I'm here with Arry Pandher, and he's hailing over from GrantMe. He's the head of growth, yeah, basically what the folks are, all about over at GrantMe is that they basically support, everything students need to ultimately be successful. But there is a lot to it, right? There is basically funding that goes into it. There is basically getting into the university. There's a lot of steps to that, and GrantMe is obviously a big part of that journey. So today we want to learn from Arry more about that. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So maybe give us a quick overview in your own words. What is GrantMe all about?
Yeah, GrantMe is an online education consulting company that helps students get into university, have a plan to pay for it, and have everything they need to have a successful career with their education.
Short and succinct, that's very clear. Now, who would this service be for? I mean, obviously, students, they want to get into university, but is there anything that we should know more about those people? Who's a great fit, basically?
Yeah, I think GrantMe's in an interesting position where our product serves both a parent and a student. So we like to refer to it as a family. While the student may be the one that's doing the day-to-day, speaking with our team, using our app and our services, the people who benefit is the family, the parent, the student, even the sister who's going to go to university 3 years from now because they see their older sibling doing it. So it would be the family.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, how do these families learn about GrantMe? Like, what's their journey, or what's the client acquisition channels that you guys leverage?
Yeah, I think GrantMe has a relatively large digital reach. So it's the normal channels you'd expect. I think for students, they love Instagram, YouTube, things like that. I think for parents, they're sometimes more on Facebook, or they're reading online. So we have the usual channels. We've invested a lot in our content and in some of our organic work. So if there's anything related to a certain university that we serve in supporting parents or students with, we find we hear from a lot of parents and students, they just kind of see us everywhere. So it's hard to say where exactly, but it's usually, I would say, a mix of Google content, and we have the usual presence on Facebook, Instagram, and those platforms.
And no, actually, you mentioned the page there. Like, what role do you attribute to the website? How do you think, as a sort of growth marketer, about GrantMe.ca? Like, what role does it play in their journey?
Yeah, I think it's everything. One thing we've really dived into is creating a lot of customer journeys on how we think customers find us, what makes them the happiest. We realize the website is such a big part of it, and the ad data, it looks like somebody clicks and they kind of go through it all at once, but that's usually not how a real journey works. Somebody's finding something, doing a bit of research, and that's not always captured in the dashboards, right? It's a bit more intuitive. It's more of a creative process to think through that. So we realized the website is everything. Actually, we did a whole repositioning about a quarter and a half ago, and I read April Dunford's book, Playing to Win. Was it Playing to Win? Yeah, I think it's Playing to Win.
Well, obviously awesome, right? It's the other one that was.
Oh shoot, yeah, no, it was Obviously Awesome is the one that it was. I read Obviously Awesome, and I spent the whole weekend just crushing the book, and I said, oh my goodness, I had like a light bulb moment, and fully redesigned the entire site in the next 40 days. So it's really everything. Yeah, it's everything. We went from the #1 university preparation program to everything students need to get into university. And it was a much more clear, I think, positioning statement, and makes it very clear when you land on the website now during your journey, how is this GrantMe thing going to help me with my university career?
Very cool. No, and I really appreciate you sharing the story there on transferring the knowledge of, let's say, the book into an actual implementation and to actual results. Very cool. Now, what do you then currently, after you did that reshape of the website, what do you kind of see as the strength of the website? I mean, you alluded to it a little bit, but also where do you see further room for improvement?
I think when it comes to the site, I'm also a big stickler for I think there's always room for improvement. It's just kind of how I am. So I think there's a lot that we can work on. I think some of the things we've done really well compared to before is I think the value proposition is clearer than ever for most families and students. I think it's also a bit easier to kind of compare ourselves now that you know we're an online education consulting company. Yeah, parents and students can kind of read that and say, "Oh, okay, they're an online consultant. They
Mhm.
understand that a bit more. It's a concept they're familiar with. I think that's a strength because
Mhm.
people know what to compare us to. Whereas previously, it was a little confusing. We're tech, we're online. What are we really? I think in terms of a weakness, I think we have a lot. I think I, as a marketer and a marketing leader, have a lot of work to do in my storytelling. I think that's something we need to do a bit more on the site and just everywhere. I think it's really powerful. We released a new page on our site, our scholars page or our students page with some of our features. And I think that was a bit of a level up for our storytelling, but I think that's what we really need to go to work on is we have awesome students, awesome families, and we love them and they love us. And I want to do an incredible job telling their story. And that's what's next, I think.
Very cool. Very super interesting. Now, what's interesting to me now is, you shared that story, how you reshaped the website based on, a positioning approach. Now, have you learned in general over the years when it comes to actually converting people, from a website visitor to, I don't know, an interest or a lead or a candidate in your case? Any like methods, tools, approaches that you've picked up over the years?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is that well, I think two things. I think one is that personalization always wins. Always. I think the second one is and I think actually it's cool. I saw Pathman kind of does that a little bit where they're personalizing it to what's relevant to the user at that time. And I think the second thing I learned that's very important is while the metrics are incredibly important, you have to use a little bit of intuitive logic on how you think people will interact with things. And this was super hard for me. I'm a numbers. I really am like a numbers guy. I really enjoy numbers. Spreadsheets come easy to me. But I realized that's like half the work, sometimes even less than that. So yeah, like I think, personalizing what a person needs, whether it's a piece of content, whether it's, one thing I think we do really well is we let people know how competitive they are for top universities. We'll give you a grade in comparison to other students we work with because we know that we work with thousands of students, and that people love that. People love knowing where they stand for their top school, right? Our parents want to know. And so I think that personalization mixed in with kind of knowing what somebody might actually have a genuine interest in or a burning desire to learn about, which you have to test a bit, look at the numbers, but you also have to kind of map out the journey, and it's a bit more logical, and that was very hard for me.
No, super interesting. Let's switch gears a little bit, right? And talk a little bit yourself and your work as a marketer. Now, could you give me an insight? What does the daily look like of a growth marketer, at GrantMe? What are sort of the projects that you work on? What are the things that you bite your teeth into that I think be very curious? And I'm curious to hear, and I think the listeners are quite interested.
Yeah, wow, it's interesting. I haven't thought about that. I'm opening up my calendar real quick, see what's on the docket for the day. But no, I think it's a healthy mix of forecasting. We have an agency, yet we also have some internal work. We have team members. So I think it's a bit of people management. It's not quite as I think creative as one might expect. While there is hours of my day that I have blocked out specifically for say ad creative or messaging or journeys, there is the human management and the hiring and the things I need to do, and that always has to happen because that's what makes I think the company tech and make sure that the families have awesome experiences and we have the right people to deliver it. So I think it's a mix of all that.
Very cool. Now, as we're slowly getting to the end of the interview, I have some rapid fire questions to get to know you and your journey a little bit better. Are you ready for those?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the last book that you read?
The last book that I read is Positive Intelligence.
Mm-hmm. What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Creating an incredible journey for parents and students so they're raving fans by the end of the time they're done their journey with us.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, what's the one thing that you would fix for your role as a marketer?
Oh, There was no boundaries with technology. I would love to actually know all those journeys we build. Like I said, it's more logic and creativity than it is data. If I could somehow actually map all that to know that this person went here, they kind of stumbled upon us to talk to this person and have like the true journey.
Mhm.
And there was just like a tool that would give me that for everybody, that would be a dream.
Mm. What is the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Oh, I mean, Google Ads had like a service outage yesterday. And like, yeah, there was a ads delivery outage. That wasn't fun. In fact, literally this meeting started at 8 a.m. and at 7:58, the ads liaison tweeted that the service outage was just fixed. So I could just ease up a little bit now.
Very good. And for the very last question, I'd like to do a little bit of time travel, right? If we go back to the days of University of British Columbia, right? So you're heading basically, out of education, right? I mean, and I think that's, I mean, in your case, that's quite interesting to see. What's the one advice you're giving yourself, right? You head out of education now. What's the, or you're sort of, I mean, in a way, completing it, but what's the one advice that you would give yourself for your career in marketing based on what you picked up in school?
Yeah, I think it's gonna sound a little cliche, but I think take the risks that you need to. And I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid of taking the risk that makes sense to you. And understand when you're that young and you have the support of the people around you. It's borderline difficult to fail as long as you have a good head on your shoulders and you're willing to work hard and be good to people. So I think that's what I would really tell myself is that it's difficult to fail when you look at things that way. So don't be afraid to take the risks that come up.
Very cool. Arry, I really appreciate you took the time with us today to be a guest on Pathmark Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about GrantMe today, what's the one thing that they should remember?
I think, GrantMe is a really incredible tool for families and students that are looking to get into universities, looking to learn the best ways to pay for and build a career. And I think it's an awesome mix of combining technology to allow students to work at their own pace, plus the human, mom and shop consultant. We have team members online as well. And I think we take the old and the new and we make a really, really cool experience and actually makes university fun, which is not a word that's maybe synonymous with applying to university. But I think that's what that's what I would love to say.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents, Arry.
Cool.